My name is Big G Half, and I'm from Inglewood, Neighborhood Piru, 500 block edition. Coming up in LA, my family tradition really was cripping, blue rag material cripping. So, and they was out the Hoovers. So that's all I kind of seen, as a youth, is my uncles giving up Hoover and blue rag material type shit in Jamestown prison pictures. So my mind was on that shit before I even transitioned over to the Inglewood Neighborhood Piru at a youthful age. It probably was like 9 or 10 years old when you recognize this, man. Or if you riding with them like I was young, you riding with them, and they'll tell you, hey man, you want to give it up to somebody out the car window, and they'll show you how to give it up, and it was an H finger and shit. You know what I'm saying?
At what age did your mom decide to move up out the Hoovers?
Well, we weren't actually staying in the Hoovers at that particular time. We had wind up navigating and moving around, and we was kind of like staying by Manual Arch. That was like the transition before it took us to Inglewood, California. You know what I'm saying? So you could say I still was, in my way youthful age of probably maybe 11 years old then, 11 and a half years old or something. You got 40s over there and stuff like that, and then on the other side of there, that I didn't know at a youthful age, that the brand, Fruittown Brands, was on the other side of that way too. It was hard times at that time, you know what I'm saying? All kind of pandemics was in the play, hardships, drugs and all that type shit. So, that was in the play with us relocating towards Inglewood. And plus, back then, family members, we'll be living all in one big ass house. It'd be about 7 families. So in the same token of that, we was also moving for our own independency, with moms. I probably was falling in because I was able to hit Highland Elementary for a minute. So you could say I still was in grade school, It's still all in youthful age, grade school roundings.
So Highland Elementary in Inglewood.
Correct.
And when you first got there, did you learn quickly that this is a blood area, or it was still too young to come to that realization?
Well, shit. I mean, I knew that place probably was occupied, but I didn't know it was heavily occupied. Cause sometime back then even up to now, you were moving some of these areas and it'll look cool today. And then later on tomorrow, you'll see homies on the block, dudes hanging all on the block. So that's kind of how it was. So when I moved into Inglewood, I'm up under the thing that, trying to go up under what my uncles is representing. And so when I finally move over there, I get to seeing it was, like after a day or two time over there, I get to seeing it's occupied by the Inglewood family bloods and the 500 block Inglewood Neighborhood Pirus.
So you thought at some point that your Crip affiliation was gonna be cool in Inglewood?
I mean, like I said, I'm still young. I'm not really knowing how shit is sectioned off, different community jurisdiction. I'm fully unaware of that shit. That shit could be, life-threatening and all that shit. So after some time, once I really found out what it was about, and a motherfucker was young and couldn't stand up under the pressure to that, you already know what the outcome was.
So at a young age, when you was living in Inglewood, people on the block was already who's you? Where you come from? Right. This a whole new style of a person. You know what I'm saying? Because even though I'm young, I got a whole different style than the homies at that time. So of course I stuck out like a sore thumb. I'm dressing different. I'm wearing little flannel type shirts, button all the way up to the top. So shit, I wasn't from around there. Do you remember who was one of the first Neighborhood Pirus you ever met once you moved over there?
Well, I would have to kind of put the homeboy One Punch first from my neighborhood, G1 Punch, because he was the first homie that really, really pressed me, and I told him I ain't with the shit, and then he got me to where did you leave from?
what was your last location before you moved here? And when I told him LA and all that shit, the homie fired on me, gave me a 2-piece and shit. You know what I'm saying? And sent me off like that. I bailed back up in the house, book bags, camouflaging knot on my head. And so when the homie pressed the hood on me before he 2-pieced me, so now I'm in my youthful mind, I'm still like, damn, this shit didn't hit the fan. But I'm still naive to the shit, so I really don't look at the transformation so soon, homie. I'm still being in denial of this shit and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? And what really brought me up to speed that the homies was taking this blood shit serious over there, I wind up seeing red rags on my door, red snakeskin belts on my door. So eventually I knew these dudes was on to something, homie.
So eventually, you go from elementary to junior high, Crozier.
Crozier.
And I'm sure things kind of pick up the pace when you get to Crozier.
Pick up the pace on Crozier. You know, I'm really not fully just, you know, superly tapped in with the homies, but the transformation is going because I'm staying right there on the central block, central location. So I'm right there, so the transformation is coming that I'm about to be ready to turn the hood, Inglewood, Neighborhood Piru.
How far from Rogers Park was you living?
Roger Park, you figure 3 blocks from the park. I was 3 blocks from the park, you know what I'm saying? And at that time, we didn't have different blocks, so it was just one main block, Hyde Park, 500 Beach.
It was just changing from 7th grade, starting for junior high to 6th grade.
I think, yeah, 6th to 8th or something like that.
It was 6th to 8th?
6th to 8th
for
or
Crozier
something
for
Crozier.
you? Okay.
And then from 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, we was heading over to Inglewood High after that.
Okay, so you was at that time when they first changed it, early 90s.
Exactly. So we still like kids falling up into junior high. We still coming up out of elementary school, basically.
What was Crozier Junior High or Crozier Middle School? What was it called when you was there? Was it already middle school?
Yeah, it was Crozier, and it was, I guess middle school started at 6th grade, so that's what that was at that time.
Was there a lot of homies, future homies already there?
If it was some homies, homie, they was like, they wasn't so heavily solidified, like really reputables from the turf, because everybody still was at that youthful time. But at that time, the hood did have homies that kind of went there, young homies, but they names wasn't so big and heavily like that. I was just really doing my thing, cause like I was saying earlier, I was still in my transition time. You know what I'm saying? Knowing homies or knowing dudes and picking up on what this shit was really about. You know what I'm saying? Because really before I started really locking it in with the homie stuff, I was locked in with the I-13s, homie. I kind of fell up under a dude named Gangster from I-13, which is R.I.P. You know what I'm saying?
So you got close with Gangster before you got fully entrenched in the Neighborhood
Pirus, exactly.
Oh, okay. So how was let's talk a little bit about Gangster and your I-13 I guess somewhat affiliation.
You could say I really kind of hung with Gangster, and through him I met a few more other I-13s in our age bracket or a tad older. And with Gangster, I was just able to pick up on a little bit more gangsterism and shit, on how things was going in the street or how they was beefing with the Lennoxes and doing their thing. So I was just getting laced like that through Gangster on this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Do you remember if there were any black members of I-13 back in them years?
Yeah, but they wasn't in grade school. They was older dudes that I used to see sometimes come on Hyde Park on the 500 block in the hood and hang out with other I-13s or a couple of my OG homeboys and shit. You know what I'm saying?
And at that time, the I-13s and the NHPs were pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course we was cool. You know, none of this racial shit was heavily in the play. So a motherfucker can drink a 40 ounce, smoke some sherm or smoke some weed, chunk them with an I-13 homie, or an I-13 chunk them with a Neighborhood Piru, and motherfuckers would be doing this same shit the next day, hanging out strapped down, serving, ready to get it in on whoever wasn't from Inglewood.
And on a side note, man, I wanna commend you for coming to those meetings back in late 2019, early 2020, when the NHPs, the Queen Streets, and the I-13s were ironing their stuff out.
Right.
That was you took a hell of a leadership position there, along with some of the other homies. So I just want to commend you on that. That was a lot of people go through a lot of bumps in the road when it comes to sitting at the table.
Correct.
On a side note, what was that experience like for you? Coming to the table with a lot of these guys and trying to resolve the peace.
Really, what brought me to the table was I had a few older big homies and OGs that was bringing up this conversation topic, and at that time, I still was trying to have a voice of reason with the young homies and kind of like, tell them the pros and the cons of this stuff that we live in. And I wanted to be there when the big homies and the OGs was having this conversation so I could be able to take them words and messages and bring it back and be able to dialogue and transfer that shit properly where the young homeboys can understand it better. You know what I'm saying? On what we was trying to do.
Yeah, and at that time it was a success. It was a
It was a piece of success. It was a piece of success, but like you said, it was bumps and bruises because you still get you might have victims, homie, from both sides. Even though we trying to do something good, it still be victims, homie, and it might be a homie that was a victim from my hood, or Inglewood 13 might have had a victim. So even though we pushing peace, we still had to have an ear to our homies that was victims, homie. A lot of the homies from both sides didn't really want to feel it, but then when they looked at how they became victims, they didn't want other people to become victims or youthful people to become victims. So everybody tried to kind of work with it, and you still had some of the young homies that didn't want to work with it that we had to stay on heavily talking to verbally, discrepancies and shit like that. So, but it was able to work out for a minute, man. We saved the gain of lives for a minute and all that shit, man. So everything ain't 100%, but we gonna give it our all, man. That's what we did with that shit.
So now going back to when you first met Gangsta,
right?
It kind of makes sense why you was very instrumental in those conversations with the I-13.
Correct.
In January of 2020, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Because you got this history starting with Gangsta.
Exactly. I did a few years with Gangster, homie. I did a few years with Gangster getting laced on this shit, homie. So you can say by me having ties with the homies from Inglewood 13 at that time, of course made me feel to have a piece of influence to dive in it, to keep shit at a minimum, homie, because like I said, we did grow up with them dudes, Them dudes did tattoo some of us up and all that shit. We got experience, man, of getting cracking with them dudes against outsiders and all that. So, of course, I was going to try to get in there and make some peace, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Take me back to them days running around with Gangster. Was it just you and Gangster, or was it you and the I-13s?
It was me and Gangster, but by them dudes, like, being in our turf, I got a chance to run with different ones, you know what I'm saying, in the time of my career with this shit. So it wasn't just Gangster, but Gangster was my school homeboy, where a lot of that shit starts at school that you can bring back to the streets and shit, you know what I'm saying?
So you on the block where all the NHPs is at.
Right.
Are they seeing you hanging out with Gangster from I-13, or you just kept it separate?
No, that was school shit with Gangster. That was school shit as being a homeboy. But also when I hit the block, you had I-13s that lived on our block at that time. So it wasn't no secret society of us mixing with these dudes, because they was on our block with us. A motherfucker be out there and there don't be no homies there, you be with an I-13 smoking weed and hustling. So, so it wasn't no secret society back then. It just was community ties.
So the connection sounded really close,
right,
compared to today.
Right, hell yeah. Hell yeah, superly close. You know what I'm saying?
I believe that after 93, 94 hit, the prison politics for Mexicans changed.
Right.
And they couldn't really function with blacks, even if they wanted to. Did you guys understand that back then, that they was getting new edicts that was coming from the penitentiary, or did y'all just say these guys is acting funny style now?
We kind of knew it because we had homies that started coming home from prisons, and they would tell us about these riots and melees and all that type shit. So we was kind of getting mentally prepared for racial tensions, and then plus they used to do the Cinco de Mayo shit at Inglewood High School and stuff. So sometimes shit would jump out, and dudes would get combative with that with Cinco de Mayo, so it'd be racial. But it'd be like with neutral Inglewood City civilians, and a few damus from different cities might join in. But we didn't ever really get too heavily in that school shit. You know what I'm saying? But when not the 90s hit and it started going like that, we did kind of see a difference with some of the I-13, but it wasn't really big where we would just take heavily notice on, man. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I got a 1990 clip from Inglewood High School where the Mexicans and the blacks fought each other.
Right.
But it wasn't gang Mexicans or gang blacks.
Right.
It was just the students at the school.
Right, that's why I say it was just regular civilians. You might catch a homie or two that might have been there that got involved in something, but it wasn't just never us colliding with them. Because you got to think it was different times, not to shut the little homies down from the Hispanic side or the black side. But at my time, homie, you had straight riders from Inglewood 13 and straight riders from Inglewood Neighborhood Pirus. And if we ever had got to popping pistols at that time on each other, this shit probably wouldn't even took place to this day, because we would have buried so many of each other back then to niggas wouldn't even want to see this today.
Yeah, man, that's so things changed. So when do you kind of go more with the NHPs and I guess move away from hanging out with the I-13?
Well, you could figure that shit lasted with the I-13s, homie, from like the 80s, you know, a little bit from my time coming in the 80s to maybe like 95, homie. That shit started like really like probably getting different in the turf with them. Maybe after, I'm gonna keep it real. That shit probably really didn't start up into the late 90s with them, because you still had powerful homies like Big Dulo, myself, Big GSD, Lil SD, the Tacos, and them. You still had a gang of homies that was non-tolerant to the bullshit as well as the I-13. So that shit really didn't get heavily in our hood and probably to the late 90s.
So when did you become full-fledged NHP then? Because at this time,
you could say, like my channel say, 89 on up. You know what I'm saying? I was already knowing the homies, but 89 on up to make it official to where I'm banged out this blood gang, and with all the bullshit, we gonna push it 89 on up, homie.
You're still cool with the I-13s at that time, though?
From the beginning time, yeah, we still good.
When you first got real tight in with the NHPs, was all the Inglewood Bloods still cohesive and together? Is it like once you join one set, you start to align yourself and start meeting homies from IF, CMG, and all the hoods? Was it like that?
Exactly, it was like that. And really, actually, I didn't really have to go out too far to meet other Bloods, because at that time, Inglewood Neighborhood Pirus, our hood had a lot of apartments, our hood had female, and our hood was known for being a money-making hood, homie. So a lot of Bloods from the low bottoms to the jungles, from the 20s, was in the hood. Other Inglewood B-Dogs was in the hood. East Side Bloods was in our hood. So our hood was heavily joined in from other damus, homie. So I got a chance to meet a lot of Bloods from coming through my hood, dealing with my hood and my homeboys at that time. Hyde Park was the main block, but Eucalyptus was also a active street that was a main block too. You got to give it up for Eucalyptus and Victor.
And you guys, I would say, are probably the closest to the 60s.
Right.
Even though the IFs come down into the
right.
77, but
right.
Y'all is on their other side really tight, really close.
Right? You'll say the Centinela Park families.
Oh yeah,
they right there.
Yeah.
So during the seasons of wartime back then, the CPFs would have to battle it out first,
And then if the 60s came through and couldn't catch no CPF, see, basically once they ran through the families and didn't see nobody, they'd come through them Nellas. Because back then you would catch a Nella, and if you didn't catch a Nella, you was going to for sure catch a Neighborhood Piru, because we hung out tough like a motherfucker. So we the second people to get hit in the gang war back then.
Yeah, so when you first was a part of NHP, which of the blood sets, I'm gonna guess it was CPF, but which ones were you tightest with in your days?
Well, I mean, homie, we had to do it. We had to do a Nella Park. We had to do a Nella Park, and I would do a Queen Street Bloods. You know what I'm saying? Because they was right next door on the shoulder of us. You know what I'm saying? Across the tracks from us. So I would have to do a Nella and a Queen Street before I just really moved in to hanging with the homies from Inglewood family, my age group and shit, even though they was already around.
Yeah. So the Sentinellas and the Queen Streets, the Sentinellas are a little bit more going east, right? Of y'all set.
Right, yeah. right, by Sentinella Park.
Now Sentinella Park, that's a huge park.
Hell yeah it is.
Was there any functioning going on at Sentinella Park? Because you know, back in the 70s, the Crips used to have meetings at Sentinella Park.
Right. Then the homies wind up taking over half that park. But that park was always a dangerous park. You know, when I was coming up young, I done heard of a lot of CPFs that I grew up with in homegirls being ambushed at that motherfucker. You know, Crips jumping out of the motherfucking trees on them while they smoking weed and hanging and busting on motherfuckers and shit, serving the homegirls and homies. So that park was a dangerous park. The homies from Sentinella Park family, they really had to give it all they had to keep that park safe for homies at that time. Not just for themselves, but other bloods that wanted to commute through there and hang out.
Yeah, man, they do got like trees. It probably there's a lot of dark spots, shadows.
Yeah. That park was a mud, homie. You know, and like I say, even the homies we done went through there and had to defend ourselves at that park, because the Crips tried to come through and attack that park and thought we was homies. So yeah, you know, shout out to them CPS for holding that park down back in the days. You know, the side where the homies kicked it at.
Now you mentioned the homeboy that first hit you when you moved over there as a youngster.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a second guy that did something similar?
That was the one that stood out to most. The homeboy G1 Punch.
Oh, okay. What about Lil Wack? I thought you told
Okay, yeah, Lil Wack, yeah, Lil Wack was a motherfucker too, man. Lil Wack could get bent and think he was a big old swole motherfucker and try to slap the shit out of you. So, and really, back in them days when you was getting put on a hood, homie, initiation wouldn't just last one day, homie. Motherfucker a lot of be fighting every day a nigga hit the hood and just felt like he wanted you to know who he was. So a put on it last damn near a month back in the days, man. Well, at that time, by me being fresh on the turf and me still getting familiar with the homies, you had the homie, it was me, the homie Big B-Rat, the homie Big Tay-Dog, which was a little younger than us. That was kind of like my first crew, and the homie LSD, that was like my first crew. But dudes that was already on the turf, you had a dude named Bisco, you had Tricky, you had Lil Spider BIP, you had the homie Sandman, you had a dude named Chili Mac. The hood had a gang of homies from the turf. So it just, after a while of you mingling and getting familiar with people, you'll fall into a different circle of dudes that you decide to hang out with, man. You know, you start upgrading yourself.
So you gravitated towards B-Rat and LSD?
B-Rat and LSD, them was, you know what I'm saying? Because we all kind of damn near shuffled around that thing at, you know, around the same time, you know, if not a year or so behind each other and shit.
And then you spoke on, a couple times, you spoke on Dulo.
Yeah.
Some people know him as Nagai.
Correct.
He was about 5 years older than you?
Yeah.
And when did you first meet him?
I met Dulo shit at the beginning of my time, you know, right there, because the building I stayed in, you had the homie, that was a headquarter building, but little Dulo, the homie named Donald,
he stayed in that building upstairs. He was like the first homie from the turf that I think that moms got them their own spot. So even though, you know, I'm probably like in my teens, the homies is like 18, 19 or something then. And they got their own spot. That's headquarters. So I'm seeing Big Dulo, Lil Dulo, the homie EK Capone, B-Dog them, Big Gangster Slim them. I'm seeing all these dudes at this time. You know what I'm saying? The homie was like a billboard sign. Homie, when you drive down the street and you see these big ass billboard signs, the homie was the billboard in Neighborhood Piru. And what I mean by being the billboard in Neighborhood Piru, he'd do commercial ties ass shit with his banging. Publicity tie shit with his banging. So that's what always made the homie have a standout character about himself, homie. He'd do the unthinkable shit. I think we lost Dulo maybe in 2000, early 2000. We lose Big Dulo.
And that must have been crushing to the hood.
Yeah, man, that was a devastating blow to the hood. Some of us felt like the hood got cursed after the homie, all that shit, because it was hard for the turf to kind of like do a bounce back. And not only with the loss of Dulo, we had started losing a lot of homies back to back at that time, homie. So, and that was tremendous, homie. So yeah, motherfuckers had to regain and re-strategize and all kind of shit, man. It was hell of a.
So he never got a chance to really get on this internet and let the people know who he was.
Nah, homie, he didn't never get a chance. You know, you could catch him. You know, you might get some old footage when he was hanging with Mac 10 and them somewhere with the who bang and shit. But the homie didn't get a chance to really landmine himself on this platform and really get the publicity he was supposed to get. And that's why I kind of share the homie history on my platform, 89 on up, homie.
Now, you just mentioned Mac 10. I guess he was tied in with the Queen Streets.
Right.
I remember I met Mac 10 through this big blood named Spider.
Right, the OG homie.
Was OG Spider from NHP or IFG?
He was a original NHP family, homie. I'm gonna put it like that. Original NHP family.
Because it seemed like he claimed both.
He claimed both, homie. And at that time, a lot of homies did claim both. You know, I happened to, when I was coming up, I kind of happened to fall up under the banner of the family root thing and had got Inglewood IFG tatted on me along with the turf. A lot of homies didn't take that stance, but a lot of us did because of the history behind all this shit.
Yeah, I met Spider one day. He talking about I'm doing security for Mac 10.
Right.
So I guess Mac 10 was really tied in back then.
Right, he was really tied in with the homies at that time.
So, being that Queen Street is right there next to the NHPs, I guess one of the things people say is why didn't he put more people on in the rap game from over there?
What, Mac 10?
Yeah.
Well, you could kind of think at that time, homie, all the homies was trying to get on for themselves at that time. It was hard for you to still, like, you know, it's kind of easier now, but it was hard for the homies to do their thing back then, homie. We had to. A lot of the homies had to disguise themselves, not really saying they bang, but switch their whole format up where it wasn't so blood advertised to get a deal, to get on the album and all that old shit, homie. So, you know, I can't really blame the homies on being selfish because, like I said, they was all trying to get themselves on, homie. Even my big homeboy Squeak Roo.
Hey, do you remember when they had that TV show, Peacemaker? And I think they came to the set, right?
On the real.
You remember?
On the real.
I think it was 2008 or 7.
Yeah, it was around that time. I remember. I think they went through the Queen Streets or something like that before.
They went to the Queens.
They went to the Queens.
Okay, what was that all about, if you remember?
Man, I'm not really sure what that shit was about. I'm not really sure, but I remember they went through there with Bosco. Matter of fact, it might have been some Inglewood on Inglewood shit that we was trying to clear the air on, man.
Back to the homies that you first started functioning with, B-Rad, LSD, and some of the others.
Yeah.
Eventually, at some point, you started catching cases and going to the county. But before that, did you ever get caught up as a juvenile?
Yeah, yep. I had to do juvenile time. You know, that shit was like back to back at them times. We was in and out of juvenile hall at that time, you know.
What was it like in there? Was the banging at a high level?
Yeah, hell yeah. At that time, yeah, it was at a high level because we wasn't the generation that founded this shit and knew Crips from going to school with them and shooting marbles with motherfuckers to people separated. When I came on, we didn't know them dudes really, but probably a friend or two you might have knew, but we didn't know a whole hood of Crips and all this shit. So it was straight animosity. You know what I'm saying? We came in with hostility and animosity. Back then, like I say, Bloods, homie, still really wasn't deep. We was still wasn't that deep. So you would still catch sprinkles of certain homies, but I did run across a few. I think, me, from Inglewood, me, the homie Green Eyes, the homie Fiji from Crenshaw Mafia, Baby Hawk, Baby Hawk, BIP from Crenshaw Mafia, Buck from Mafia. You would run across my homeboy LSD from my hood. You would catch a few Inglewood homies, but it wasn't so, you wouldn't catch us that deep, homie. And it was a homie named Hangout that used to be running through there from CPB, down ass B-Dog homie. So you would catch a few homies running around through there and shit.
Now, did you ever run across a set in Inglewood called the Weirdos?
Right.
Because when I was young, there was no such thing.
Right.
I guess that came up when you was coming up?
Right, that's Weirdo Bloods, I believe, WDZ. And if anybody can go back to the Banging on Wax with Big Wide and them and all that shit, you would hear in one of the raps where they talk about WDZ, Weirdo Gangster Bloods.
And where were they? Was there even I didn't think that there was any hood left in Inglewood for a new set to form. Where did they form at?
I think they formed between the Mafias and the CPBs, I want to say. I'm really not sure, but I know they formed on that side of Inglewood. All them little hoods that was coming up, like they had Mobster Bloods. I think they was 88th Street Mobster Bloods by the families, and you had these little different cliques. But at the time I was coming up, these little blood cliques, they lasted for a minute, and then niggas put the clamps on these dudes and made them turn their original blood hoods, or members from these other hoods started getting smoked, and they last alternatives was to join the big gang to carry out the retaliation on whoever member they got lost from them little cliques, man. They lasted they still got their name to this day. You'll still catch a few Weirdo Bloods, so yeah, they one of the ones that lasted, you could say.
Okay, so we're over here in I guess La Tierra area.
Right, TGIF Friday.
Why did you want to post up over here?
Well, I could be right here in spirit with my little homeboy, Lil G Half, PIP from my neighborhood, and he got smoked up here in the early 2000s, man, when I was fresh out the penitentiary, when this TGIF started coming about, and the homies was talking about trying to like take this spot over and make it kind of like Crenshaw for us, where we have a spot to kick it at, homie, every weekend or every Friday. And during the process of that, of us trying to gain control of this place, we got into it with the Crips up here, combination of the 40s and 60s at that time when they kind of was doing their thing together. And my young homeboy with a few more youngsters seen a few of them that they knew up here, man, and words went out of hand. And my little homeboy, young G Half Deuce, called himself taking flight. After he put his thing up, he called himself taking flight, and wind up getting downed up here, man, smoked up here in this parking lot, man. So I felt like this was paying contribution, homage, and to have my homeboy here with me while we run it up.
So he wanted to squabble, and they wanted to gunplay.
I mean, he didn't think it was gonna really lead there because he seen a dude he kind of knew. You know what I'm saying? He didn't think it was gonna go there, but by me not being here, I heard words kind of got out of hand. And when he went to fire and then go back to retreat to get some heat, he got gunned. Because at the time of him, they being up here, I'm fresh out the pen, I'm at the spot. And he called me to come up here. And I said, well, I had long hair at that time. I said, man, let me comb my hair, put it in a ponytail and shit. And I come on up here and hang with y'all, man. Because I'm fresh out. And quick as I threw my shit in a ponytail and get ready to walk out the house, man, I get a call back that the homie got peeled up here, man.
in the
It
2000s?
wasn't like that at the beginning, dog. You know, all this crazy shit we did made them develop these surveillance cameras in different locations, man. To save lives and shit, man. You know.
So Lil G have, I guess he came up in the hood a few years after you did.
Exactly. The homies brought him to me, basically, because back in the days, you know, in dude's absence, whether homies had got smoked out here from different hoods or homies went to jail, we still had love for members, homie. So when a homie had come through and he remind you of a homie that wasn't here no more, or a homie that had a gain of time, or a homegirl that wasn't here no more and had a gain of time, we'll name people after our loved ones, homie. So I remember when the homies grabbed Lil G-Hab, I had just got out of camp. And I remember I seen my homeboy Ghost and my homeboy LSD, and they gave me the one finger. They like, hold on, homie, hold on. We got something for you. So I'm like, man, what these niggas got for me fresh out? What these niggas got? So when I hit the hood, the niggas like, we got something for you. Next thing you know, homie, a little midget motherfucker bell up, banged out just like me, walking like me, talking like me and everything. And it was instantly hit, homie, and I adopted him, homie, and that's how I got the homie and shit. Baby G Half is the up and coming rapper P Thrizzle. That's Baby G Half, the Filipino agent, homie. For those that didn't know, you know what I'm saying? You can catch his music up under P Thrizzle with Northside Navy. And also, not to, you know, explore his business, but at them times, homie, by him being Baby G Half, and he lost a big homie as well as I lost a little homie. Back in them times, dudes would get out from jail even before this, the 80s and 90s. A lot of homies would get out the YAs and penitentiaries, and when they lose close road dogs and the homies wasn't here physically when it happened, niggas would get out of jail and try to go get cracking and rage war, and that's how P Thrizzle wound up getting paralyzed in one leg and getting his leg fucked up by trying to carry out the, you know, his due diligence for Lil G Half that got peeled, homie, you know.
Oh, so P Thrizzle, Baby G Half, he's disabled right now.
Right, partially paralyzed. He could still walk, but it took years of rehabilitation to get him like that because he was in a gang war for the young homeboy, Lil G Half.
Okay, and is there a Tiny?
Tiny would be Half Ounce, the rapper that's BIP from the hood. That'll be our Tiny, basically.
And yeah, he was putting it down for Neighborhood
Yeah,
Pirus.
yeah, hell yeah, he was getting it in, man.
He got one of the hardest roll calls ever rapped.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah, man. Where he shot out dudes from here to the Bay, down to the Southsiders, down the Crips. I think the homie got one of the most impactful roll calls in this hood culture shit, homie. And then we had the Infant, which was Sean Mack that was rapping, that kind of got put on through YG out of Compton. He was Sean Mack, aka Infant Pint. He just had ties with YG with doing the music and shit. YG tried to help, you know, promote him and put him down a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
So that's the five generations of G-Half right there.
Right.
And two of them are resting.
We got Lil G-Half resting, we got Half Ounce resting, and we got Infant resting.
Oh, Infant resting
yeah,
too?
Yeah. Oh. So I got 3 homies that didn't got down in our hood over here, in our hood life named up under me. You know what I'm saying?
Since we're talking about those resting, tell me a little bit about Rosemoke. He was sort of maybe the first NHP to have an internet buzz back in 2010, 11.
Right. Yeah. He I guess he discovered a little internet buzz, man, that was unhealthy, homie. I really don't actually know the details, but I just, you know, kind of like chimed in from just seeing that shit on social media at that time, and like I said, it was unhealthy, homie, and it probably led to some bad shit.
Even though you wasn't online back in 2010, 11, 12, you was still checking out everything that was going on.
Right. I mean, I didn't really catch it till later on time. You know, I caught up on that shit. Cause you know, back then, social media, we really wasn't just on that shit like that. But then when the later time hit, and then you just chime in and look back at shit and rekindle the time and shit, you say, damn, you know what I'm saying?
So the first rappers that was trying to make a buzz from your neighborhood, would that be 211 and Ice Burgundy?
That would be, I would say Tiny 211 first. I would say Tiny 211 because I think he had ties with Young Jeezy at that time. And that was before 2000. That was like late 90s. 211 was working with them and shit.
Who's reached the highest amount of fame, I guess, in the hip hop out of NHP? Would it be?
I would want to say the big homeboy Squeak Roo. I would have to give our OG homeboy his credit first and his props first because he went through the first struggle of this stuff with that shit, homie. And then I say the most next popular homie doing this thing, homie, I would have to give Tiny 211 his props that he held on and kept it pushing like that. But a lot of dudes don't know when Big 211 passed, he asked us to keep Tiny 211 on his music and to grant him to keep doing his music. And a lot of us listen to the homie 211 words and try to inspire and keep granting the homie that thing to do his music, man.
And everybody would bump their music, support it, play it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, all the homies, we'll bump 211 shit and promote it and all that shit, you know what I'm saying? And then along with 211, you know, he brought more people in. You know, Rucci, which is Taco's son, was inspired by dude. You know what I'm saying? Sean Mack, you know, all the little dudes that came around, they got the music buzz with them. You know what I'm saying?
Now, Rucci's doing his thing now, right?
Yeah, Rucci doing his thing now. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been buzzing for a minute.
Yeah, hell yeah. But you could say his mentors, since they kind of like an older generation than Rucci, you would have to give it to Tiny 211 that's being, you know, one of his mentors and shit.
But the godfather of the eye would have to be Mac 10 though, huh?
You would have to, you would have to give him Mac 10, man. You would have to say, yeah, he put it on heavy, you know, in our time since music was hitting like a mud.
Yeah, man, I just wish that, I know there's a lot of music politics involved that
right.
Even though you the star like Mac
right.
10, you just can't bring everybody on. It just don't work like that.
And then it be trials and tribulations on this street that'll have a motherfucking side eyeing you. You know what I'm saying? Even with the Rose Mo shit, you know, shit, man. You know, it's damn if you do and damn if you don't. We can't make everybody happy with this shit.
Now, Rose Mo wasn't a rapper.
He wasn't a rapper.
But he was known just like the rappers was known.
Yeah. He wasn't a rapper, but he was a scrapper and a possibly capper. You know what I'm saying? And that's how it was with Rose Mo, man.
Yeah. So it's a lot of names that done came through your neighborhood that,
right.
You know, made headlines over the years.
Right, yeah. We had a popular area with the bullshit.
All right, so you mentioned going to the penitentiary, but you did your juvenile time.
Right.
When do you first hit the county jail, man, and what was that like for you?
I hit the county jail probably like mid-90s. And it was a tripped out experience, man. And it's like, you know, now that, you know, I kind of started my channel, and then when you look back on your life and you feel like the way you was living in jails and living on the street was like a movie, you would say, well, shit, maybe I was filming my own life, man. So that shit was an amazing experience when I first hit that LA County jail.
Did you go straight to the module, or did you think that maybe I could just go on general population and ride it out?
I had banged mainline because I wasn't really hipped on even how to get to the modules and shit. So I just wound up pushing the main line and shit. And I didn't have Crips when I first was on there. They used to hate because I had, you know, tattoos on me, disrespectful tats towards the Crips and all kind of shit crossed out. So older G Crips used to say, hey man, maybe you should go to the main line. I mean, maybe you should go to the modules or do this. They had made suggestions for a nigga, but I didn't never follow suit. I was like, man, I'm gonna stay out here. But the homies already had said, get your bang on first before you come to the module. So that was already in the nigga head, you know what I'm saying? And you know, some Crips used to try to have a nigga drop a kite on himself. But I was young and was like, kind of already hipped on that. They'd be like, write the police, let them know you a blood, you can't be here. But really, them niggas who just wanted the all Crip dorm. They didn't want no bloods there or none of that shit. And I was just I wouldn't take no kite. I wouldn't drop no kite on myself. So I stayed banging amongst them until I went to the module or something, or OSJ hit the main line snatching people up and shit.
Now you talked about going to the module back in '98 and getting dope fiend by one of the homies.
Right.
What was that all about?
Man, that's why I don't really gamble out here, man, to this day, man. Motherfuckers was in there gambling, and I think we was playing 21 blackjack, and I wound up cracking the cell. You know, I broke all the homies in that motherfucker. But by us being from the same hood in the modules, I remember homies that had style, they used to have a personal store bag, and if niggas was came up or was gambling, we'd have a second store bag, and that'd be a bag we share with the hood outside our personal. So I wind up cracking the whole cell, and one of the older big homies, he didn't like that I cracked the whole cell, and I didn't want to gamble no more. I'm like, nigga, I didn't hit niggas already. He wanted to gamble hygiene. I'm like, niggas don't gamble hygiene. Nigga, keep your hygiene. We from the same hood, nigga. Eat out this store bag, don't touch this one. He didn't like how I did it, and I bagged up out of gambling. Nigga, I wasn't finna gamble no more. I don't need no hygiene. So now while I'm on the phone with my girl at that time, the big homie dope fiends me while I'm on the payphone. And from there, it just kicked it up off because I didn't want to gamble no more. I didn't want to give him no more get back. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I said, man, on the street, I barely even gamble, man. Well, I hate to say, man, the big homie took off on me, tried to squabble a motherfucker up. And I was like, damn, homie, I got to, you know, by me being small, homie, I got to be a force to be reckoned with in this motherfucker. So I pumped myself up after 2 days, man, to go on and take flight with another homie on a big homie, man, and we tried to move him, man. We tried to blast him up off the tier and shit, you know. And I got love for the big homie to this day right now, but that's just what had to happen, homie, because I didn't want to go out like that, dog.
Yeah. And once you in the module, just because it's a bunch of homies, it's a bunch of blood. Now, was this 4300?
I want to say it probably was. It probably was. But I know these was like 6-man cells at them times and shit. Yeah.
And even though you in the module with supposed homies, it can go up in there at any moment.
Yeah. Motherfuckers will try to punk you out up in there, homie, because you got homies that might not been on their shit on the streets, but when they get to jail, they reform and turn into a whole treacherous, different style of a person. You know what I'm saying? And then you also in the battlefield with a million other bloods, homie. And if you don't know how to hold your rank and hold your own, homie, and when in the absence of your homies going to the penitentiary and going home, you might got to move in another cell and be with the homie. So if you don't lay down no demo on what type of person you are, homie, the next homies might try to play you, homie.
Now, was you on your way to prison on that first time?
Yeah. I was on my way to prison. That time.
So how long did you fight your case in the county before you got sent to prison?
I think I stayed down there about a year with the homies down there. About a year.
And then what you end up going to prison for?
I wound up taking a couple years and shit. I think I was in there for cultivation at that time. And that was for marijuana. They didn't know how they was doing it at that time, but they was sending people to prison for cultivation.
And what was that like first time? You go to reception?
I go to reception.
Was that Delano maybe?
I think I went to Wasco. I went up to the Bakerfield up in Wasco, and that was amazing too, because you know you get up there with Bakerfield, and that's a whole different get down. They ain't really feeling LA homies like that, and you learning them dudes get down, homie. And like I said, everything was an experiential moment, homie. You know, that's also where I learned to politic with other B-dogs and other bloods at up there too.
Did you get a chance to meet dudes that were from different cities like San Diego?
Oh yeah.
Oakland, maybe.
Yeah.
You get to meet people from all over the state.
From all over, man. It's like going to college and shit. That's why people used to call it college, I guess, back in the days, man, because you meet everybody from all walks of life with this P and this B thing, man, or even cripping or something.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about the time one of the homies got shot, and you went up to the hospital to check on him, and it just turned into a whole nother thing.
Right.
Who was the homie that got shot at that time?
I believe Taco got shot, homie. You know, G Taco from my hood got shot. And back then, we didn't have a lot of firearms and shit. So I remember the homie LSD, he came to my spot and he wanted to grab my firearm. But I'm like, nah, homie, these motherfuckers is hard to get right now. I'ma go with my firearm. So I remember leaving the house, I'm kicking it with mine, we smoking herb, watching scary movies and shit. So I remember leaving the pad from mom's them, going up there. So when we get to the hospital, one time all in the parking lot, so the homie, I think I'm with the homie KK I mentioned from Blackstone, and he was like, damn homie, let's leave the strap here because there's so many police out here, they might get to harassing us, bumping us. So, and I leave the heat. So in the process of me leaving the heat, I go up to the hospital and go in there, check on the homies. And so the Crips is up in there. Once the police start filtering out, it's Crips up there, you know, Tapo, them, with different few other 60s. And they talking about, we ain't got to go nowhere. The enemies is up here. So once I hear that, I leave about the hospital. I'm like, man, I'm finna go get this thing. But instead of me going straight to the car, I bang on the nigga from 60s outside the entranceway, push on him real tough while he talking to a female. And I guess the words I said to that nigga made that nigga start barking on me, and he shot me right there on the spot.
Now, the 60s was up there because...
one of they peoples got shot.
Okay, so the homie, was it Taco you said?
Taco from my hood got shot.
He got into it with the 60s.
And the 60s say they got shot.
So they took everybody to
and
the same hospital?
we all meet at the same hospital.
That's kind of crazy.
That was crazy. we all meet up at the same hospital and kick it back off up at that motherfucker.
Okay, so you walking out the door of the hospital. This is Daniel Freeman, which is now a bunch of apartment buildings.
Now it's a bunch of apartment buildings now, yeah.
But you walking out Daniel Freeman hospital doors.
Right.
And the 60 standing right there.
60 standing right there at the door.
And he busts on you right there.
Yeah, I turn around, I look at him. He got the two ponytails hanging long, G'd up. And I look at him and I say, man, what that Neighborhood Piru like? Blood? And that nigga just looked at me and I dissed him. You know, F whoopty whoop. And the nigga eyes got big, and next thing you know, I just watched the nigga. I couldn't run. I just watched him go up under his shirt, come out with a cannon, and serve a motherfucker.
He didn't say nothing?
He just bust. After I dissed and talked all that crazy shit, I said enough. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it was, man.
Now, it sounds like that happened at close range.
It was close range, man. You know, shit, from probably about here, 4 feet away. 4 feet away, man.
And he hit you in the hip?
Hit me in the hip. Yep, hit me in the hip, man.
So that's like a real close one, man.
Yeah, that was a real close. I didn't really realize how close it was till my auntie was cleaning my wounds and she started crying and was like, man, this shit could have killed you. And that's when that shit really made me take all that shit in, man.
So the hospital didn't clean your wounds since you were right there?
I mean, you know, when I came home to get them cleaned up, but right then and there, you know, that hospital was new. They didn't even have no security booth. I mean, it wasn't new, but it was new to the drama because they didn't even have no security office. The security used to work the front door. So basically, when I got bust on, they just shut the whole hospital down until the police came there before they even pulled me to the back of that spot.
That's crazy that probably even back then, they didn't have a lot of cameras.
No, it wasn't none of that. All this stuff was new. Everything was off visual. You know these cameras kind of help save people in a way, and and not prosecute people in the wrong way, because back then a motherfucker be scared, startled, and they'll make a description of anybody that looked like anybody back then. You know what I'm saying? But you gotta say, man, back then, because I remember kind of looking dude broke. And then by our hood still being so close right there on where Prairie is, you cut right back up Florence, you on Florence and Crenshaw. You know what I'm saying? So we were still able to make big moves back then, you know, after an altercation.
You gotta be one of the first dudes ever to get shot at a hospital to go visit while visiting a shooting victim.
Right. Yeah, hell yeah, I was, man. That shit was legendary in the turf, homie. All the homies was like, man, that was some G shit. You know what I'm saying? especially when niggas found out I wasn't letting my gun go. I wanted to go up there where my cannon was at. Motherfuckers was like, that was some heroic shit for a young homie, you know what I'm saying?
So when he bust on your hip, did it incapacitate you where you couldn't run to the
car?
Yeah,
it dropped me right there because I was young and small. That shit dropped me right there. And the homies thought I got smoked. My road dog LSD and them thought I got smoked. So after the busing, they ran out there and pulled me back into the hospital and shit. And I was just leaking right there. And they just stayed with me until one time came in and shit, because they wasn't pulling me to the back. The nurses, the doctors and shit, they was scared, so they just locked the main entrance down and shit.
Well, you know, I was going to blame the police for that happening because you don't take two different hoods to the same hospital.
Right.
But it's still early in the history of this shit.
Right.
They was still probably learning this shit.
Right. Because once that did happen, they wind up transporting me and the homie Taco out the back door into ambulance and transferred us to a whole different hospital facility. Cause they figured it was two shootings with two different gangs up here. Now let's split them up once the police came.
So how did Taco end up doing after he got shot?
He wound up healing up, but when I first went back there, he had heard the busing. And so when I go to the back of the hospital, I'm in pain. I'm like, oh shit, I'm hollering and shit back there. And the homie know my voice. So Taco get gone one. Oh, blood, what happened? Blood, you got shot? I'm like, yeah, blood, they bust on me. So he going on one in the background like, blood, I need to get out of here. Blood, it's on and cracking and wooty whoop. Man, fuck that, you straight. You know, and I'm like back there going crazy and shit, you know what I'm saying? And from there, that's when they hooked us up together and transported us up out of there.
So you and Taco at that time must have tripped that both y'all got shot on the same day.
Right. We like, damn, this shit crazy, homie.
Did y'all develop a special bond because of that?
We did, because our moms, they had to take, you know, we was going to therapy and all that shit together. And my mom didn't have no car at that time. So Taco mama used to let me and my mama get in the car with them, and we had to go to therapy together and all that shit. So that made us even bond more, and it helped our moms then bond more by his mom being a Salvadorian and my mom black. They was able to get they bonded ship on with both of them having some hard-headed sons out here.
But if I remember correctly, your mom warned you before you walked out the
Exactly.
spot. What did she tell you?
She was like, damn, you running after them. I think it was my mom's birthday or something, man. She was like, you running after them like they all that. And I wound up getting bust on, could have lost my life from disobeying what moms wanted me to do, kicking and blow weed and hang with her, man. I could have got peeled that night.
Yeah, that's wild, man. Those close ones, man. Get your adrenaline pumping, and you think it's your time to go. The butterflies start fluttering in your stomach.
Right.
But hey, he had bad aim.
Yeah. He didn't have it right, or he wasn't trying to just down me like that, man. Either way, I want to say thank you.
Or it could have been he wasn't really trying to kill you.
Right.
It could be both of them.
Yeah.
He might be like, I just want to get this dude off.
Right. It could have been that.
Yeah. But anytime you start busting a pistol, you know, anybody can end up getting it.
For real.
So what was it like once the police came back and rushed up in there after you laid out there?
So now they come up in there, man, and they get me to the back. The doctors and stuff get to kind of dealing with me. And I remember one time come in, these some one times that I used to see bump me up on the street. And they show, so they know it's the 60s up in there. So now they show me a whole 6-pack, rolling 60s, a whole photo album. You seen any of these dudes and this and that? I'm like, no, I ain't seen nobody. So police mad as a motherfucker, like, what you mean you ain't seen nobody? This ain't the peoples and this and that. Because I guess they had somebody out there, probably had gave them a description, but they wanted me to stamp it and solidify it. So I'm like, man, I don't know nobody. I told them I don't give a fuck what happened to me long as I'm still alive. And I remember them dudes getting mad and said some messed up things to me. And that was it, man. They cut up out the room.
Well, you did what the street code says to do.
For real, though. Yeah.
Even though a lot of people watching this would say you could have helped get one potential killer off the streets. But What do you respond? What's your response to that?
Well, when we was doing that shit, homie, you know, even though none of that shit is not the way to do it, homie. All that shit can send us to jail. All that shit is bad. But at that time, homie, I wouldn't have told on these motherfuckers for the simple fact, if I would have busted on one of them, I wouldn't have want one of them to go to court and tell on me and put me away, homie, because when we signed up for this, we know the circumstances, penitentiary, death, and all that, homie.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about your first conflict in juvenile hall with a legend Crip.
Right.
Because the legends are kind of small.
Right.
You don't really hear a lot about them.
Right.
If you're from Inglewood, you know about them.
We know about them.
So that was one of your first, I guess, conflicts.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, that was like one of my first conflict in juvenile hall. I believe, I think it was Unit TV that I get there and run across some legends. And really, I was already in that unit. I think I had went to school, and on my way back from school, they had new people in there. So my mind just running, homie. And at that time, it'd be so many Crips in there. All you would hear is cuss this, cuss that. You like, damn, homie. So when I'm coming back from school, I remember I see two dudes there, and they say, "What's up, cuz?" But my mind's so gone, I think they say, "What's up, blood?" So as I greet them like, "Yeah, what's up, blood?" and give it up to them and all that shit, it kicks off. Come to find out they Crips, they didn't even say, "What's up, blood?" And the squabble kicks off from there.
How do you end up knowing they're from Legend?
Cause they tell me that during the squabble and shit, they get to pushing their hood and shit. And so that's how I knew where them dudes was from.
Now, in the streets, was there a lot of conflict with Inglewood Crips? And if so, who was the main ones?
Well, you could say coming up, all of them, we didn't segregate none of them. If your hood was still active and you said y'all was cripping in Inglewood, we was gonna get at y'all.
So it could be the Tongans?
It could be the Tongas, it could be the IVCs, it could be the Raymonds, Watergates, Legends. If you was an active Crip hood, and at that time in the 90s when we was moving around, we was gonna come visit you.
Now Watergate is on the other side of Inglewood, right?
Yeah. They more closer to the homies from Avenue Piru on Imperial. But we still detoured around, just like other Inglewood Bloods detoured around to make sure they visit these other Crip hoods. The Neighborhood Pirus, we did the same thing. And not to take nothing from the Crips, they tried to come through and get cracking, but that's what made the whole city all the time rage against them, you know.
Now, was there a new set that popped up over there called Mad Ass Gangsters?
On what side?
Over by where the Watergates was at, or?
I heard of something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever.
Right, I don't know.
themselves.
Yeah, I don't know how deep they got or, you know, how extensive they program got. So I don't want to take none from them, but I have heard of them.
Okay, let's talk about the homie that passed in 1995, because you talk about him a lot, Ghost.
Ghost, yeah, that was my road dog.
When did you first link up with Ghost, and how'd y'all get close?
Well, me and Ghost got close early 90s. Early 90s, Ghost had moved to the turf. And the homie, light-skinned, tall homie, good homie, we wind up courting him on the turf and shit. You know what I'm saying? And the homie wasn't really that active right offhand. Then he had moved, and at that time, homies had moved to other blood hoods and gang status up. So when he came back to our turf, after moving out for a minute, he came back totally active, and he was a part of the crew with me, LSD, and Baby Slim then.
And he ends up getting shot and killed in 95.
Correct.
Were you there with him?
I was there with him, man. I was there with him.
What happened that day?
That day, homie, typical hood day, turf day. And me, him, Dulo, few more homies, you know, we in the hood holding it down. And lunchtime come about, I think, man. So we decided to go up in our hood up on La Brea and get some food. In the route of that, homie, we all got guns on us. We all strapped down, pistoled up, but one time pulled up on us. But they didn't get out the car and search us. They just rolled up like, man, what's cracking with y'all? What y'all doing? So we tell them we going to get something to eat. We ain't kicking up no status or none of that shit. So the police kind of knew us from being in the street. He wasn't an asshole, so he was like, man, be safe, do y'all thing, we out here. Shift change finna come up, so you don't know how the next shift finna be. So he heads up us. So once they pull off, we all vote like, homie, should we go put these things up or what? So we like, fuck it, we all vote to go put our straps up. So we go put our straps up, we give them to the little smokers that we had in the spot, and we take back off on bikes and foot patrol. When we get to the corner of Inglewood Ave, we get approached with an ambush. And what I mean, approached with an ambush, motherfuckers roll up on us and blood us. What's up, blood? What that be like, homie? And you know, we in our youthful time, we gonna blood back. Yeah, blood, what's happening, homie? What that be like? So they like, man, what the homie, you know, what's happening? So I don't know if a couple of the homies felt odd about it, but one of the homies said, blood, we going back to the block, meet us on the block. So in the process of us turning back around to get to the block, to possibly get to the cannons or whatever, niggas sneak attack us and open up about 100-some shots on us, man. You know, blast me again, and then my homie Ghost come up out the cut because he wasn't actually with us. He come up out the cut in the turf, and in the process, him grabbing me and we coming across the street, another motherfucker roll up and give us about 50 more shots and smoke the homie in front of me.
So you got hit also?
I got hit also.
Which is now your second time, huh?
That was about the second time, man.
And this is a good point in your story to really let the youngsters know what this is really all about.
Right,
because
right.
when you was 12, 11, 13, you probably wasn't thinking, I'm gonna be fighting for my life twice now.
Right. No, I wasn't thinking that, man. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't thinking that. I'm thinking that shit, man. That first time was enough, you know, maybe that'd be it. And then when the second time came through, I was like, damn. But I had that guilt remorse because I felt like, you know, shit, if this shit wouldn't have happened to me, the homie wouldn't have came out and could grab me and he wouldn't have got smoked. You know what I'm saying?
So he got shot after you got shot?
He got shot after I got shot. He got shot. While he dragging me across the street trying to get me to safety, we trying to get to the hood building where we had the straps at, a second car come up and serve us from getting across the street.
So when you got hit during the first shootout.
Right.
You didn't get hit that second shootout?
I didn't get hit the second one.
Damn. That's crazy.
And once again, I was this close with the car. When they pulled up on me, I'm talking to them. And it seemed like as soon as I turned my back to get back to the block, that's when they opened up fire on us.
Now, what's interesting about your relationship with Ghost, he had a girlfriend that was pregnant at the time.
Correct. Yep.
And he never got to see his child.
He never got to see his child.
So what did you feel like doing at that point?
At that point, homie, I was like in my youthful age. I'm thinking like, man, should I keep my homeboy's son? You know, I'm young. Like, damn, what should I do about all this? But the homie Ghost mama, she was a gangster already, homie. She was gangstified already. So when I told her kind of where my mind was going, she agreed on all that shit because she just was gangstered out. And we had a meeting, me, the homie Ghost mama, somebody else, and the homeboy Ghost baby mama at that time. And the homie Ghost mama, BIP, Sylvia, she laid all the ground rules down that this is how we felt, that we wanted everything to go for the sake of the homie Ghost son, Juvenile, dog. And we kind of said we was gonna be together, dog. You know, and that's what we did.
So you end up pretty much hooking up with Ghost's girl.
Correct.
And did any of the homies feel a certain kind of way after the homie passed?
Oh yeah, I went through a lot of little, you know, comments, side scrutiny and all that, because dudes really didn't know the big angle of this thing, homie. They didn't know that now Giovanni is about to be 29 years old. They wasn't looking at I was gonna adopt Giovanni and still be here to today in Giovanni's life. Niggas just looked at like, this nigga foul, this nigga wanna go behind the homie and flip the homie baby mama, when it wasn't even like that. And which actually, she was still pregnant, so a nigga still really didn't lay up with her when she was pregnant. Then after she dropped the baby, it still took a nigga like a year to even lay up with her because that wasn't the actual motive. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't the actual motive. But after that time,
And then we really locked it. I wound up marrying her, homie. I was only like 17 years old, 17 and a half when I married her. And my mom gave, had to do the little consent shit, I think, that be there. And I married her, homie, and solidified it to try to, raise the homeboy's son, which is my son, properly and correct.
So how long did the relationship last with Ghost X?
We got a few years. We got a few good years out of it, homie. We got a few good years out of it, and realized that it probably was wasn't a rush, but it just it wasn't no lastful thing amongst us, homie. Because I was still in my youthful age and not really being highly appreciative for shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I am today.
So you took on you took on the role of being a father.
Correct.
To the son. Now, there's some people watching this will say, "Hey, you could have took that role on as the father figure without even ever touching her." Right?
Yeah.
What's your response to that?
I could have, homie. I possibly could have, but I probably wouldn't have had the major impactful connection that I was able to make with Juvenile if I was a separate entity out of her life. You know what I'm saying? By me being right there solidly and trying to really make something work, if people can go back and listen to an interview that I did with me and the homie son, and he'll let you know if it, I gave him a voice, I gave him a father figure, I gave him something to live for and look at. So I had to look at that before I look at any negative criticism from anybody, homie, because a lot of homies, homie, you hear that shit, nigga, I got my homeboy son, or the homegirl got the homegirl's daughter, but homie, how many motherfuckers got decades under their belt handling these obligations, homie?
So how did the relationship between you and the son work out?
I'm his father today, man. I can speed dial him, get him on the phone. I see him on a regular. And shit, man, I treat, he's mine, homie, before I even had my own biological kids, that's my son.
That's your first son?
That's my first son.
Okay. Now, looking back, the people that criticized you then, have they you won them over?
I won them over because I stayed down for my crown and probably did some of the shit that they wanted to do, and they couldn't fulfill it, but just to see the homie stay down on his obligations, shit, I think I gave a lot of niggas the motivation to be a stepfather, to be a fill-in and all that shit, homie, just by dudes watching me. And this was live and in person inside my hood, a dead homeboy.
Okay. Now, one more story I wanted to talk to you about before we wrap it up was I like the fact that you make aware that even there's sometimes conflict within homies.
Yes.
Homies fight, homies kill each other sometimes. Yeah. And you got into it once with the homie Master Splinter in that car ride.
Right.
Talk to us about Master Splinter and what was going on in that car ride that y'all had.
Well, Master Splinter, homie, we gonna call him. He was a YA homie, one of them burnt out down ass homies that nigga just love the hood, homie, down for whatever, and he'll push a line on whatever, and push a line on the homie if niggas wasn't feeling what he was up to, homie. And at that particular time, like I said, the homie get out of YA system. He not knowing everybody that's on the street that we hanging with, homie. And at that time, he tried to move on a good homie and and trip on the whole car. And I was like, not knowing really what the homie was gonna be capable of, so I had to think fast to change the tables up, man, and I wound up conning the homie out the heat, told him I seen the enemy or a good potential lick, and when he gave me the strap, I had to turn it on the homie and get the homie out the way, because I didn't know if he was gonna take our life or take the homie life, Now
he was tripping on the homie KP, right?
Yes.
Now KP sitting in the front seat?
Sitting in the front seat.
You driving?
No, the homie KP was driving.
You in the front seat?
I was in the back seat.
Oh, you in the back seat?
I'm playing the back. I think he's in the front seat. I think I'm in the front or the back, but however it was, I know I drew down on the homie and had to make him get out the car.
But he drew down first.
He drew down first. But like I said in the story, I had to con him out the strap. I had to tell him, because I know how gone the homie is. He one of them homies, if you can say, oh, nigga, I see something right now, let me, and he'd be like, what, nigga? And he'd pass you the heat. So once he did that and I'm clutching on the heat, I say, damn, I gotta change the tables on this shit and boot the homie on out, man, you know.
So who would he pull the strap out on first?
KP.
Okay. And then you had to say, hey, man.
And then that's when he kind of drew down on me and kind of started talking a little stuff. And I'm like, damn, man, I don't know where this finna go right here. You know what I'm saying? And by me drawing down and had to get the homie out the car, he had told the homies I had left him in Crip Hood because he wanted me to try to get DP'd or whatever. But once I explained to the homies what trip the homie was on and everybody kind of knew it, dudes kind of like, you know, squash it amongst us and shit. And I apologize to the homie and shit, but that's what it was.
So no DPs had to be administered?
No DPs, man.
But he was certainly deserving of one at that time, would you say?
Yeah, he needed one. Hell yeah, because he probably would have peeled the motherfucker or something.
Why you think he was able to get away without not getting DP'd, even though he tried to put you out there, dropping him off in enemy?
Because I was able to change, I was able to twist the dynamics on it and kind of like, you know, protect myself. So it, you know, when it came back to the turf and I told the homies how it was kind of like an isolated incident amongst me and the homie. You know, you got down foul, nigga, the homie played you and got down foul back, nigga. That's it.
Now, was you and Master Splinter ever able to reconcile and be cool again?
Oh, yeah. We wound up catching each other in the county jails and the blood module, and he wound up giving me a tattoo and shit, and we chopped it up and shit. And also, from the BJ story that I told on my podcast, or when we stole the ideal of the big ass shoes to put the weed and knives in, I stole that move and actually was able to send a move like that to the homeboy Master Splinter inside the county jail. So he became my dog, homie.
Shout out to Master Splinter.
Shout out to Master Splinter.
Is he locked up now?
He locked up now, and hopefully they gave him a date, and hopefully he stick to that date and come on home, man, and get this new world a try for yourself, man.
How long he been gone?
I want to say about 27 years, maybe, man.
Oh, man, come on, Master Splinter.
Yeah, come on home, man. We waiting on you, man.
For sure. Last story, man. I think this is very admirable of you, and I seen your integrity and your courage during those peace talks.
Right.
But you told a story about taking the homie's dope case.
Right.
Or taking a dope case that you could have easily got away from.
Yeah.
This is a common thing that sometimes the bigger homie will say, hey, you're the younger homie, take the case. And sometimes it's like, nah, I ain't taking it.
Right.
You know, but talk about the case in and of itself. How did the police find the dope in the first place?
Well, actually, we was all hanging at the hood part, and we had bike police at that time. And I had some work inside of a Newport cigarette box. So I guess when we seen the police, I go to try to get rid of the Newport box with the work, which I do get it off of me, and I'm able to get on. And I go up in the park. So in the time of that, I remember another homie, I guess he wound up getting away from the scene, and he tell me that they got one of the homies bumped up with the Newport box with my narcotics in it. So I'm saying, damn, homie, I can really just be like, fuck this shit, get on. I ain't trying to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? Good ass breezy day like today and shit. I can go back home and eat and kick it. But I remember the homie telling me like, man, nigga, you wouldn't want no nigga to put it, you know, have something and don't stand up for it and all this old shit. And I said, man, you right. And I went back over there and I remember, you know, calling the police to the side, telling the police it was my work that they found. And they thought I was just, you know, taking the case, and I was just letting them know, nah, man, I'm just trying to be honest and, you know, keep with my name and keep my name clean. This is my work. This is how it was found and all that. That shit was mine. And they wound up uncuffing the homie and taking me down for it, man.
So they took you right into custody, right?
Right
there.
into custody, right there, homie.
And sometimes you lucky they let him go because they could have just kept both of y'all.
Right. But these police knew me inside the neighborhood, and they kind of like, you know, I was kind of stamped as being a real young homie. So, you know, all these police that police ties these communities, they know the real from the fake, and they know the truth from a lie, homie. And they granted me to tell the truth and released the homie and took me and shit. But the police even credit me as being a hell of a motherfucker because not all the time do they see that shit like that back in the days, you know?
Now, did the homie ever appreciate that?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah. He, you know, shit, matter of fact, I think he had made a comment on the story and said, man, even if I had to go down for the case,
I wouldn't have told on you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But shit, man, that's just homie love, homie, and me and the homie love each other to this day and shit.
So if he ever decides to tell that story, he could definitely stamp it that the homie G Half came and took a case that they were trying to put on me.
Yeah. That's solidified. That's on black and white on content, homie, on the channel that the homie said he still would have took the case for my work, even if I wouldn't have took the beef. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, hey, let the people know where they can tap in with you at, man.
Man, you can catch me on YouTube at 89 on up, homie, while I'm kicking that G shit and not that Ye shit. You know what I'm saying?
And briefly tell me how's the YouTube journey going for you, man, since you jumped on about almost a year ago.
Right. The journey is a trip, homie. And I look at it like a good old book, man. I'm just telling stories out my book, man, and hopefully I can inspire somebody to become solider that's younger, or I can inspire somebody to be a whole different person. What I mean by that, be a person with logic if you banging, homie. Know how to judge shit, for shit won't be a war all the time where niggas can verbalize shit. And also I've opened up my channel just to share my life on banging, homie. You can catch stories of where I took L's as well as I won, homie. You can catch hood relationship tie shit on that shit. So, you know, my shit is just an open outlet for the youth, the public, and also to let the OGs reminisce on the old times of this shit, man.
Oh, real quickly, man, I wanted to ask you about what was your reaction when Nipsey Hussle got shot and killed in 2019?
When I heard about it, homie, because Inglewood always be up like this, in a way because dude had started celebritizing himself different, I was hoping nobody from the city had inflicted that on dude, because I knew it would have went all out, homie. And you know, I hate that his own community ties surrounded that shit, but you know, it was better than probably having a gang war where a lot of people would have lost their lives, homie.
So right off the bat, you thought, man, maybe somebody from Inglewood.
Yeah. I said, homie, it's finna go up, homie. Everybody's in it now. You know what I'm saying? There ain't no age limit on it. That's what I thought.
And I wanted to ask you this. You told a story about an Asian blood in the module claiming a set I ain't never heard of, Koreatown
Piru. Yeah,
was he from LA? I
guess so. I guess he was from LA. It was a homie named Tonka B. And I remember I met him on the main line with the OG homeboy from Avenue Piru. KG, I think that's BIP from Avenues, homie. And I remember the homie had a little juice, and I think Tonka B was going to the pen, and he sent him down to the blood module road, where I was able to brace and chop it up more with the homie before he left. But that was the last thing I heard of the homie from Koreatown Piru, Tonka B.
I ain't never heard of that set.
Yeah, man. That shit always, that shit stay with me all to this day, man, from way back then. Tonka B, Koreatown Piru.
But when you just said Avenue Piru, the first thing I thought about was Red Rum. We didn't mention Red Rum. Red Rum is probably, I don't know if he predates Mac 10 in terms of just rapping, because he was on that Banging on Wax.
Yeah.
Early 90s.
90s, yeah.
So he might actually predate Mac 10, Red Rum.
I say he predate Mac 10 because they came with the blood rap.
Yeah.
And Mac 10, I think he was on another thing before he really went big. He was on there with some Queen Street homies, and I think that group was called First Amendment, homie, if I'm not mistaken. It was a group called First Amendment with Queen Street Bloods.
Now, I think Red Rum goes back to 93, Banging on Wax.
Yeah.
Do you know when did First Amendment come out?
I want to say like maybe 92.
Okay.
Maybe like 92.
Yeah. All right, man.
But shout out Red Rum, homie. We love you. Piru love from around the world, and blood love. And still to this day, nigga, the B and the P is not for sale.